I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed77 Radio,
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports.
Can't take no more than hair. Since the flag came down, I'll be here to the last lap around. Well, dog, it's time to play. Gonna get a little bit sideways. Hey, since the flag came down, be here to the last lap around. Well, dog, it's time to play. Gonna get a little bit sideways.
Good evening, race fans. Welcome back to Speed77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. It's that time of the week once again, and we're glad you're along for the ride for another edition of Motorsports Madness. Tonight, we're going to take a look at NASCAR, IndyCar, the open wheel world, sprint cars, and a little bit of everything, Legends cars, and even some K&N action. And it all starts right now on Speed77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. We're glad that you're along for the ride. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Speed77 Radio. I'm Jacob Seelman, the voice of Speed77. Glad you're along with us for tonight's edition of Motorsports Madness. I'm joined at the round table, as I am every weekend, by my colleague, Tom Baker. And Tom, of course, welcome back to the show as always, and as we get started once again, boy, you and I have just been all over the place chasing races and keeping up on the latest news here this weekend from around the world of motorsports.
Yeah, it surely has been a race chasing kind of weekend, hasn't it?
That it has. We've seen sprint cars, Legends cars, NASCAR, IndyCar. We've just had a little bit of everything here over the past couple of days, and over the next hour and a half on this special extended edition, we're about to talk about all of it live.
Sounds good to me.
Let's go ahead and get started then. Of course, the biggest story from the weekend was the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series in Kansas. Headed out to the Midwest for round 4 of the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup, and we knew it had the potential to shake things up, and boy did it shake things up ever. For the first time in the chase, points leader Matt Kenseth has a bad day. For the first time in the chase, Kyle Busch goes from great to yikes, and the closer, Kevin Harvick, goes to victory lane, and all of a sudden the lame duck dynasty appears like it may be in position to challenge for a Sprint Cup championship. Harvick taking the win in the Hollywood Casino 400 for his 22nd Sprint Cup win and third of the season. Tom, as we start the show tonight, the first question everybody's got to be asking is, where did he come from? Kevin Harvick, victorious once again this season. The lame duck dynasty is back.
Well, I don't know if I want to call him a lame duck dynasty. I don't think that either Kevin or RCR ever looked at it as being a lame duck kind of situation. Kevin is a fierce competitor, and certainly RCR is a top team. And yes, Kevin made the decision to move on after this year to Stewart-Haas, but surely there was no lame duck scenario in this equation. Kevin runs really well on the 1.5-mile tracks. He's going to be tough to beat at Charlotte this coming Saturday night as well. Not totally surprised to see him win at Kansas, although not so sure he was the fastest car. There were a lot of things that sort of happened to get Kevin to the point of being able to win, but that's why they run the races. So he certainly was in a position to take advantage of some others' misfortune, and congratulations to the Budweiser team, because certainly they put themselves, as you said, they're in this, and again, you're not even halfway through yet. There's a lot to be said for what's to come. And there are some tracks like Charlotte, like Talladega, to name two, that if you think Kansas shook things up a little bit, it's kind of the watch this, y'all, because Talladega is the biggest wild card on the circuit, and Charlotte tends to be the kind of a racetrack too where you get some unpredictability as well. So congratulations to Kevin Harvick. Really impressed with that team, and also impressed with Kurt Busch. Once again, the Furniture Row team hanging right in there. Not impressed with the whole Kyle Busch situation. That was, as you said, yikes. That was an unmitigated disaster.
That it was, and let's talk about two unmitigated disasters that took place in this one on Sunday. Not just Kyle Busch, who crashed with about 100 miles to go, finished 34th, but also Ryan Newman, who got caught up in a wreck and ended up 35th on the afternoon. We see Ryan Newman drop now, boy oh boy oh boy, a little bit further down the totem pole here as we get closer and closer to the end of the season. And we also see Kyle Busch now drop almost 40 points outside of the chase lead. So I'll ask you first, Ryan Newman's back there in 7th place, Kyle Busch in 5th. Are these two now out of the realm of possibility to make up enough ground to challenge for a Sprint Cup championship?
Well, I would say Ryan Newman, yes. Kyle Busch, no. Only because I think Kyle is capable of ripping off wins at a few of the upcoming tracks. But, of course, you got to depend on a lot of other people having bad days. I would say at this point, of course, neither of them are mathematically out, but reasonably, I would say that I think there's a better chance Kyle Busch could claw his way back in than there is that Ryan will. But, again, funny things happen when you get down to the last 10, and we've already seen some of that. So, yeah, probably both of them are reasonably out, especially if Harvick continues to run up front. You've got Matt Kenseth, who certainly is not going to have, likely not going to have many more days like Sunday was. And, of course, you got Jimmy Johnson, and Jimmy is not going away. So there are still several drivers who are in this. Yeah, it's going to be tough for either one of them, but certainly Kyle's still in a little bit better of a position than Ryan at this point.
Harvick moves now with the win to just 25 points out of the championship lead, and then you've got Jeff Gordon in 4th, who's only 32 points back and has surged since his late inclusion into the 2013 chase. From there on back, everybody from Kyle Busch on is 35 points or more out, but the two I'm focusing on are Sunday's winner, Kevin Harvick, and the 24 of Jeff Gordon. Do these two have a reasonable shot, if Matt Kenseth and Jimmy Johnson stumble, to challenge for the championship?
Well, sure. If Matt or Jimmy get crashed out and end up 43rd or 35th or whatever, and and one of these guys goes out and runs the top 3 and whatever, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's still enough time left to go that I think anybody in the top 5 has a chance at it. Not to say somebody from 6th back couldn't just really catch fire. And again, with Talladega coming up, 3/4 of the chase cars could end up in wrecks. You just don't really know what's going to happen. So I would say that, yeah, there's still time for almost anybody to creep back in, but definitely both Harvick and Jeff Gordon still are very much in this thing. Harvick raced himself in with that win at Kansas, and again, all of those types of tracks are good tracks for Kevin, and he's won at Charlotte. There's no reason to think that Kevin Harvick would do some damage in the next 3-4 races in this chase and put himself in the lead or in a good position to be in it right down to the wire. I still say that there's going to be at least 4 to 5 cars that are going to be in, at least mathematically, with a shot going into the last race this year at Homestead. I don't think this is going to end up being a 1 or 2 man horse race. I just think there's there's too much close competition for that.
This we shall see. And talking about we shall see, Matt Kenseth's weekend was really a tale of two races. You had the Saturday afternoon nationwide race that he stormed to the lead in the closing laps of the 300-mile event, led 3 times, 38 laps, grabbed the victory after starting 17th over Paul Menard, Regan Smith, Kyle Busch, and Justin Allgaier. And then you have Sunday, where Matt Kenseth, who had won the last 2 Cup races at Kansas and was the favorite, many thought, to pick up a 3rd victory in this year's chase, and he has a pit road speeding penalty, drops as low as 30th at one point on the afternoon, and ultimately finishes 11th, and now is down to just a 3-point lead over Jimmy Johnson. First off, what do you make of Matt Kenseth's dominant performance in Saturday afternoon's race? And second, Jimmy Johnson gets a little bit closer to the aforementioned Matt Kenseth in the battle for the championship.
Well, Matt Kenseth runs for Joe Gibbs Racing in Nationwide. That's really all you need to know about Saturday. Joe Gibbs and Roger Penske pretty much own the series. So anybody that drives for either of those two seems to be able to run at least, in the win, place, or show position, which is top 3 for those of you who don't follow horse racing. And have no problems with that. So I'm not surprised that Matt was able to do that whatsoever. And in terms of Jimmy Johnson creeping back up, I think, it's what we talked about when they were at Dover, that was going to be Jimmy's track, and if you were going to win, you were going to go through Jimmy Johnson. Well, Jimmy won, so nobody went through him. And here we are in a situation now where certainly he's as much a factor in this as anybody, but I'm telling you, this isn't going to be one of those scenarios where all of a sudden Jimmy's going to win 3 of the next 4 races and just, be on. It's not going to happen that way. There's too much competition, too many close cars, and, the racing is just too close. So I think it's great that Jimmy's back in there. It's good for us to talk about it. And obviously, he's a polarizing figure. You either like him or you don't. And it's not a personal thing. You're just either a fan of his or you're tired of him winning championships. So I think it's good to have him in the mix. But it's also good to have the Harvicks, the Kenseths, and the Gordons. And, how controversial would it be if Jeff Gordon is somehow able to come through and win this thing after being added as the Baker's Dozen car, one of my favorite catchphrases, by the way. Baker's Dozen car, the lucky 13th pick into the chase. If he's able to somehow manufacture a championship out of that, people would be talking about that all winter long.
Oh, that they will. That they will for sure if Jeff Gordon can claw his way to a championship. One more loose end from that NASCAR Nationwide event on Saturday afternoon, and that's the car who finished 3rd, the 7 of Regan Smith, who led the most laps, led 81 of the 200 laps, and ends up 3rd, but you gotta think, Matt Kenseth rolled the strategy to victory lane late for Regan Smith, who is now really starting to look like he may be falling out of this championship battle. 35 points back of new points leader Austin Dillon. A missed opportunity, perhaps, for Regan Smith?
Well, I don't know. You do what you think is right. And as you said, Kenseth rolled the dice. I'm not so sure that it was a missed opportunity for Regan, if that's the best way to say it, because I don't think Regan necessarily did anything wrong. In other words, he didn't spin while he was leading, by 3/4 of the track or something. It was just Matt Kenseth made the right call, but certainly I think it was, honestly, I think it was a great run for Regan, and certainly on a 1.5-mile track where that team has badly struggled all season long, it was a great run, and they needed to do that. Unfortunately, it doesn't help him a lot in the championship chase because he was already so far back. Again, he's not out of it. We're still, again, it's halfway. So Regan's not out of this yet, and if they can get the 1.5-mile consistency that they need, then there's certainly no reason to think that with some help, Regan couldn't be back in this in a week or two, and claw his way right back up. But certainly, it's going to be tough for him. There's a lot of competition in the Nationwide Series too, and Austin Dillon is getting hot at just the right time.
Final thing before we head to commercial from that NASCAR Nationwide Series in Kansas, and you had to know this was coming, you had to know I was going to save it for last, because I got to let the fans mull over it during the commercial. Kyle Busch versus Brad Keselowski. We saw that come to a boil for the... once again, over the past couple of years, we saw Kyle... he and Brad battling for that runner-up spot, and had the caution not come out, likely the win because Matt Kenseth was excruciatingly close on fuel. Busch gets into Keselowski. Keselowski goes for a turn down the front straightaway, hard into the wall. This closes the owner points battle up. And then Kyle Busch has to go and say after the race, "Up to now, I've never wrecked anybody intentionally," which leaves, of course, Keselowski seething. Oh, what do we make of the feud? Because, ladies and gentlemen, it's on again.
Well, if you're asking me if I think he spun him on purpose, I'm reminded of an old Southern phrase: "It may not be a bull, but it has everything a bull has." And that's, I think, all you need to understand about that. So, do I think he spun him? Yes, absolutely. Isn't it fun, Jacob? Isn't it fun, Father, for us on these shows to have stuff like this to talk about? Kyle's been a good guy most of the year. You know what? Nothing wrong with a little bit of controversy as we go down into the last half of the chase, you know?
Oh, none at all. And then Brad goes in the next morning to the Cup drivers meeting and asks NASCAR if wrecking someone intentionally is a violation of the 100% rule. I couldn't get over laughing about that one. That really made Sunday all the more interesting. And obviously we didn't see Brad pay him back, but we saw Kyle, manufacture his own end, to that matter, in the Sprint Cup race at Kansas. But certainly those two always making for some exciting moments here of late in the NASCAR ranks, both in Nationwide and in Sprint Cup.
Yeah, no doubt. And Kyle, you're right. I mean, I think, again, karma's a funny thing sometimes, isn't it? And you just had to think that there was a little bit of karma coming down, as Willie Nelson used to sing, a little old-fashioned karma going around there on Sunday. It was not Kyle's best day, but I suspect that before this chase is over, Kyle's going to have some best days, and I'm still holding out for our pick, Kurt Busch, that you're still going to see the 78 win a race before this is done too. He's going to get tired of being the bridesmaid, and he's going to end up being the bride one of these weeks. And if you know what, just one last thought before we go to break here. If he wins this week, anybody that buys a Serta mattress or buys a mattress at Denver Mattress during the week leading up to the Charlotte race here in Charlotte from the Charlotte store, if he wins, they get the mattress free. So there's going to be a lot of people buying mattresses, I think, hoping that maybe they get them for free. I don't think there's going to be too many of them buying them hoping that Kurt Busch wins, but there may be a few people who just temporarily turn into Kurt Busch fans here in Charlotte this week.
Ha ha! So true it is, and Denver Mattress certainly going to be watching on Saturday night to see if Kurt Busch goes to victory lane. We're going to take our first caution flag here tonight on Motorsports Madness. When we come back, we're going to talk the sprint car world. We have the Carolina Nationals recap from the USCS and URC, and we're going to be talking that right after this. You're listening to Speed77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. We are your home for motorsports.
Did you know that most teens who drink alcohol get it from people they know? Usually their friends or family members. But regardless of where they get it, alcohol puts teens at risk for injury, to themselves and to others. You can help make it a safe summer for the teens you know. Don't serve them alcohol. It's unsafe, it's illegal, and it's irresponsible. Find out more at don'tserveteens.gov. That's don'tserveteens.gov. A message from the Federal Trade Commission and this station.
To have a rivalry You need a rival.
For every David,
A Goliath.
for every Hatfield,
A McCoy.
Every KO bro.
Needs a Bobby Allison.
For every fight,
A ring to settle it in.
in order to finish first.
somebody's got to finish second.
I hate second. Love your rivals.
Because you need someone to beat.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker,
You're listening to Speed77 Radio.
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports. Welcome back to Speed77 Radio and Race Chaser Online here on this Tuesday night edition of Motorsports Madness. I'm Jacob Seelman alongside my broadcast colleague Tom Baker, and now it's time to talk the sprint car world, and these are the kind of moments where I wish DJ Everett, our sprint car expert, could be here to join us. I know he wished he could have been here for the Carolina Thunder Nationals and North-South Shootout weekend over the weekend at Carolina Speedway in Gastonia and at Cherokee Speedway in Gaffney, South Carolina, but Tom, you and I were following the action. In fact, you were there right alongside me on Friday night at Carolina Speedway, and boy, oh boy, did we see a show. 31 sprint cars turned out to Gastonia, North Carolina, to the Carolina Speedway to try and qualify for the weekend's action. The USCS, the Southern National Sprint Car Tour, versus the Northern-based United Racing Company, or URC, Rislone Sprint Series, going in a north-south doubleheader, and when it was all said and done, I don't think any of us expected it, but the South reigning victorious in both events. How about the young gun, the Carolina Kid as we call him, Eric Riggins Jr., victorious in both races. Friday night at Carolina Speedway, he outran a hard-charging Josh Weller, second in the URC point standings, took the lead from Johnny Bridges in a three-wide maneuver with 11 laps complete of the 30 and rolled right on there into rockauto.com and City Chevrolet victory lane. Saturday night, his race goes just about the same way. We see Riggins with, a valiant run, picks up the win. He only leads the final 9 laps over Troy Betts, but for the USCS, an outstanding showing over the 2 races, and Eric Riggins, the Carolina Kid, giving the Carolina fans quite the show.
Yeah, no doubt. It was a great show on Friday night. I didn't get to see Saturday because I was at Concord Speedway, but Friday night was absolutely fantastic at Carolina. Tremendous crowd, and the USCS group they really did. And URC, it was a great show from top to bottom. A lot of competition. Eric Riggins drew the pole for the feature, unfortunately. So, and I say unfortunately, not for Eric, but certainly for the rest of the competition.
That's true. And it's funny how I open my mouth and people tend to appear. But what do you know if our own sprint car expert, DJ Everett, has not just joined us at the round table, gracing us with his presence once again. DJ, welcome back. It's your turf, sprint car racing. And what do you know? I got to hear your thoughts on this because the Carolina Kid mopped up the weekend, took out the broom, and swept the Carolina Nationals.
Jacob, I heard the words sprint car. My ears perk up I should say, when I hear those 2 words put together. And I heard you say I wish DJ was here. So I say, you know what? Let's go ahead and join him for just a little while here, as long as my voice will last, because I've been under the weather this past week. The Carolina Kid, Eric Riggins, I've been following him over the last few years. I remember when he burst onto the scene back in 2009 as a rookie, when I was still the announcer of USCS. Just a young kid, just trying to get his feet wet in sprint car racing, and just to see him grow in that form of motorsports has just been incredible. No surprise for him to do the double this past weekend at Carolina and Cherokee. He has been racing up in Pennsylvania quite a bit, and he has done a couple of stints up in the Ohio and Indiana area. I think that is good training for him for whenever he does come back home to the Charlotte, North Carolina area and run with USCS. That he does run up front these days now. So lately, as of the last couple of years, watching Eric grow like he has been, it's just been incredible. But I think it's been a good omen for him to venture out a little bit to the tough Pennsylvania circuit and the Ohio Valley area up there to run against some other competition. It's actually helped him out quite a bit.
That I have to agree with, and he mentioned it in one of his post-race interviews over the weekend when we talked to him about his runs up north preparing for the URC Invaders to come down south and run in the Carolinas. And speaking of the URC Invaders, DJ, I gotta ask you, did it surprise you at all to not see the URC guys be able to get up there and challenge more closely for the victory? We did see J.J. Grasso in that Kramer-Williamson powered machine clinch the championship Saturday night at Cherokee, but did it surprise you that guys like Josh Weller and J.J. Grasso weren't closer to that top spot in the end?
Yeah, just a little bit. It does surprise me just a little bit. Anytime URC has come down to challenge USCS, it's been a while. URC has shown the upper hand on USCS, but to see J.J. Grasso and Josh Weller not be too much of a competition to Eric Riggins was kind of surprising. I know Billy Pouch Jr. was there as well. He's kind of he's pretty stout in a 360 wing sprint car. A lot of the other URC guys that came down, I was kind of surprised a little bit, but a little bit happy personally on my end that USCS came out on top.
That I cannot deny at all, because certainly with you and I both.
Jake, I'm kind of actually stuck on the fence with that, because URC, growing up in New Jersey, was the first sprint car organization that I ever watched as a kid. And, and then I did do some work for USCS, and you yourself have done a wonderful job taking over the realm of the announcer duties there. So I was kind of stuck on the fence with USCS and URC, but, I am kind of partial to USCS these days.
This I cannot deny, again, straight from the mouth of DJ Everett, but I was able, in fact, to catch up with the Carolina Nationals champion Eric Riggins following the 2 wins he got this weekend. And race fans, let's take a listen to what Eric had to say after having a little bit of time to digest those 2 breakthrough victories. Eric, first off, glad to have you on the show with us this evening. Swept the weekend in the Carolinas, defended your home turf Friday night at Carolina Speedway, and then swept the national weekend Saturday night at Cherokee Speedway. Talk about your weekend on both counts, certainly dominating performances both nights for you.
Well, it's just awesome to have such a good weekend, with how bad our year's been so far, blowing up 6 motors this year. And that was the motor we had there Friday night. Came off the dyno at 1 o'clock, and it's the first time Gray Motorsports built our motor for us, and it won both nights out, so I'd have to say it was a pretty dang good piece.
It certainly was. Your car seemed like it came in about halfway through the run both nights. Was there any, for you, problems at the start of the run? Was your car more set up to handle the long run?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I was just really trying to be patient there at the beginning because I knew how good our piece was, and I kind of knew which line was going to come in on the track, and you notice change lines about halfway through, and that's when I really started picking up some speed. So once I did that, the car was, perfect for that, and ended up working out pretty well.
How much momentum does a weekend like this give you as you get set to go towards 2014?
It definitely gives us a lot of hope, for sure. Coming into this weekend, our 2014 plans were unsure, but now we got this whole year to get rebuilt and get all our motors done over there at Gray's, because, obviously that looks like it's going to be a good choice for us. Really, it gives us good momentum heading into Charlotte. I'm really looking forward to that, and hope for a good showing there, and we'll go from there.
You mentioned Charlotte, and I know you've run not only with the Outlaws some up in Pennsylvania, but you ran a few URC shows this year before they came down and invaded your turf here over the weekend. Did you learn anything from running with those guys earlier in the season that helped you for the Carolina doubleheader?
Well, when we ran URC up in Pennsylvania, we each time we had motor issues, so we didn't really actually get to run with them, but we did get to run a lot of 410 stuff up there, you know, locally and some bigger shows, and we ran all of Speed Week with them for the 410 sprint cars. So I definitely learned a lot there, and I've definitely picked up a bunch of stuff from up there.
And I know we were just talking a little bit about 2014, and you said your plans hadn't been sure. Where should we expect to see you in 2014? USCS, World of Outlaws? Where are we going to see Eric Riggins going forward?
You'll definitely see me about everywhere, kind of like this year was, but we're hoping to win some more races than we did this year and run up front definitely a lot more. So, you know, not a whole lot will change. Hopefully, my phone will start ringing, getting some people wanting me to drive for them, but as far as my family car, we'll just be running, you know, wherever.
And I know you can't do it alone. A lot of team support, a lot of guys that have helped make it happen for you, and obviously attribute a lot of the success to this weekend. Who makes it happen for Eric Riggins?
Well, my mom and dad do a lot for me and sacrifice a lot, and Alpha Canvas Nani and Race Products, main sponsor on the car, they do a lot for me and get me going most of the time, and just Gray Motorsports for the awesome horsepower, you know, great motors, and FK Rod Ends, JRI Shocks, K&N Filters, Brown & Miller, J&J Auto Racing, and everybody that helps make it possible for me, you know, through the week and help at the tracks and stuff like that.
Eric, again, congratulations on a fantastic weekend for you. 2 wins in 2 nights, and certainly a lot of momentum built towards 2014. Thank you for taking a couple minutes to talk with us, and we wish you all the best as your season winds down, and all the best as 2014 gets set to roll here as well.
All right, thank you.
To put a bow on the Carolina Nationals, Eric Riggins wins the battle. Of course, J.J. Grasso winning the URC version of the war, claiming his second URC championship. Derek Hagar still leads the USCS points right now over Terry Gray. That gap, though, shrunk considerably after Hagar crashed out on Friday night and finished dead last, 24th in the Friday night main event at Carolina Speedway. But the USCS and URC wasn't the only sprint car act running across the nation. Real quickly before we head to commercial, DJ, I guess this is kind of taking us back to your corner as we see the lava lamps up on the walls again, but more sprint car action from the World of Outlaws. The National Open weekend, always a lot of fun to talk about. And this weekend, it was all about the Pennsylvania posse. Friday night in the preliminary action, it was Donnie Kreitz. And Saturday night, wouldn't you know it, but in his final Williams Grove start, it was the veteran Fred Raymer picking up his first ever National Open victory.
Oh boy, I tell you what, Jacob, I was loving this. It was the 50,000 to win National Open at Williams Grove this past Friday and Saturday, and I don't know if you would agree with me or not, but the Outlaws, I think their toughest competition wherever they go across the country is that tough Pennsylvania circuit. You know, they have some tough competition whenever they head through Ohio and Indiana. They have a little bit of tough competition when they head through Northern California, but it's nothing like when they hit that Pennsylvania circuit. And it seems like as of the last at least 5 years that these Pennsylvania guys have got the Outlaws number as of late. If you look at Friday night, the top 3 were Pennsylvania guys: Donnie Kreitz Jr., Danny Dietrich, and Brian Monteith. Saturday, yes, Fred Raymer won, but it was a battle between him and Pennsylvania guys, local Steve Buckwalter. I thought for a second Steve Buckwalter was going to win this race. It's just incredible that these Pennsylvania guys have got their number every time the Outlaws come to town. But what a sweet win for Fred Raymer. They're saying, the rumor is that that's his last. This could be his final year in sprint car racing, and he's going to retire. This most likely was his last National Open race at Williams Grove. He's never won one before, and once you know it, his final one, he finally wins it. 50,000 to Fred Raymer. I'm actually kind of smiling inside myself because a lot of these guys, also, when I grew up in New Jersey, I watched a lot of these guys race, including Fred Raymer, Donnie Kreitz Jr., Lance DeWeese, all those guys. And it's just incredible. Every time these Outlaws come to town, the Pennsylvania guys have got it every single time.
That they do, and certainly our congratulations to Fred Raymer on a fantastic career and a National Open victory. DJ, last question before we let you go. 56 points between Donnie Schatz and Darren Pittman. Darren Pittman continues to lead the championship standings. Does he have it now with just a couple of races to go?
Yeah, I was looking at the schedule earlier. We have Rolling Wheels Raceway this weekend up in upstate New York, and then we head down to the World Finals in Charlotte. Couple races left. On the schedule, it looks like there's 3 races, 3 points-paying races at Charlotte for the World Finals. But with that said, whether it's 2 races ago or 4 races ago, with that said, I think Darren Pittman's going to have some problems in order for Donnie Schatz to catch him. And what a testament to Darren Pittman. Donnie Schatz is putting up the wins like you wouldn't believe this year, but Darren Pittman is still in the points lead. What a testament to him.
What a testament it is. DJ, we always enjoy having you in on the conversation. Thanks for coming back to the corner. We've kept it warm for you here, and we'll look forward to the next time, my friend. Good to have you back on from the West Coast.
Thanks, Jacob. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
We're going to take a 15-second pause for station identification, and when we come back, we're going to talk open wheel action with our Wine and Cheeser, our resident open wheel correspondent, Joel Sebastianelli. That's coming up right after this. You're listening to Speed77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. We'll be right back. I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed77 Radio,
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports. Welcome back to Motorsports Madness here on Speed77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. After a quick caution flag, we're back, and now it's time to talk open wheel action, and there's only one source to go to for all things in the open wheel world, and that's Open Wheel Central with our resident correspondent, Joel Sebastianelli. Joel, welcome back to the show, and boy, oh boy, we have a lot to talk about here in this next 20 minutes or so.
Oh, it's great to be back on again as always. So much that's happened this week in racing, from IndyCar to Formula One. Some good news, some not so good news. Of course, Dario Franchitti making headlines for a horrendous crash on the lap of the Grand Prix of Houston. So many things to talk about, and the IndyCar season winding down as well.
That it is, and let's go right to that crash on the final lap in the Grand Prix of Houston. Dario Franchitti taking a wild tumble up into the catch fence in a crash eerily reminiscent of Mike Conway's crash at Indianapolis a couple of years ago. A very scary-looking crash that we saw Dario taken away by ambulance to a local hospital in Houston. Later, the word came back that he's got a spinal fracture, won't require surgery, thankfully. Problems with the ankle and a concussion, so Dario Franchitti pretty banged up in this one, and the one testament to it all is it could have been a whole lot worse.
It absolutely could have been. Dario's car getting up in the air after hitting Takuma Sato's back wheel is exactly what the DW12 was designed to prevent, but the thing to note about that is, you mentioned Mike Conway's crash. Compare this one to Conway's crash. Very similar, but notice that the safety cell in the DW12 never blew apart. It stayed together. Dario, of course, like any open-wheel driver, didn't have safety over his head, but that car stayed intact, whereas the other ones wouldn't. Now, of course, they were designed to dissipate energy as well, but I think that if you compare those two side by side, if he wrecks like this in the other car, maybe his chances of escaping the way he did are a little bit slimmer. So this car definitely doing its job. Really, really impressed with the level of safety and the level of racing this chassis has brought as well.
This is very true, and we talk about that level of racing. The Grand Prix of Houston certainly provided a lot of action and a lot of storylines as well. Race number 1 going to Scott Dixon, and boy, the storyline there was Helio Castroneves. Started back in the field in the teens for that one, and going out early, ends up finishing 21st, gives up a huge chunk of points to Scott Dixon. the capitalization begun there. It continued in race 2. Castroneves, we thought he had a break. He started on the pole after qualifying, was washed out in the morning of race number 2, leads a couple laps early, but ultimately goes out with gearbox issues. Scott Dixon finishes second, and ironically enough, Castroneves' teammate, Will Power, goes to victory lane for the second time this year. So we see Elio go from 49 points up to 25 points in arrears going to the finale out in Fontana. Joel, for Elio Castroneves, you could ask where did it all go wrong, but the bigger question is, what could they have done to fix it?
I'm not sure there's really all that much they could have done at Houston. Sometimes it's just not your weekend, and it certainly wasn't for Elio. An 18th place finish in the first race, 23rd in the second, while Scott Dixon did just about as well as he could have possibly done, winning the first race, second in the second one. Dixon has been phenomenal in these doubleheaders, of course, swept Toronto. As the season has gone on, Dixon's really turned it on in Ganassi, and remember with Ganassi, we waited so long for them to get their first win, which was up to Pocono Raceway. Had they come into the season in typical Honda and Ganassi form, maybe this is already wrapped up by the time we get to Houston, not just going into Fontana with the 25-point lead and needing to finish, generally speaking, just finish as high as you can. If Elio doesn't finish 6th or higher, it's impossible for him to win the title anyway. So coming in, it looked like it was Elio's to lose. And unfortunately for him and Penske, they did. Elio has never won a title, and we always think of him as being this very composed guy. And I don't remember who said it on NBC Saturday, but they were exactly right heading into Saturday night, and it still rings true. Do you really think Elio Castroneves is going to get a good night's sleep every night leading into Fontana, particularly the night before the race, when he knows that he was so close to a title, and now, instead of defending the title, there's so much uncertainty as to whether he can even get back up there? It's really got to mess with your mind if you're Elio Castroneves, seeing it go away from you like that.
That it does, and the numbers are very simple. If Scott Dixon finishes 5th or better in the Fontana finale, the MAV TV 500, he will win the championship hands down, regardless of what Elio Castroneves does. Castroneves basically has to get max points and hope that Scott Dixon finishes about 7th or worse when it all gets said and done in order to claim the championship. Even 6th, there's a chance that they could end up tied, and in that case, the tiebreaker goes to Scott Dixon on virtue of wins. So the championship landscape has changed dramatically on the IndyCar side of things. But on the other side of the open wheel world, the Formula One side of things, we just keep seeing more of the same. The Grand Prix of Korea, once again, Sebastian Vettel.
Sebastian Vettel, there's just not that much you can say about him other than 4-syllable words that describe his dominance. You know, just a simple 2-syllable word or 1-syllable word like great doesn't cut it. He's been phenomenal, remarkable. Vettel has been absolutely outstanding. I can't think of anybody else that I've seen in Formula One that can even hold a candle to him. A lot of people will say that it's all from Red Bull. You know, oh, thank Adrian Newey, thank the designers, thank everyone on the team. You know, this era of Formula One with all the technology takes the driver out of it. I don't think so at all. If you stick him in a Ferrari or anything else, I think Sebastian Vettel still shines. He puts down fast lap after fast lap. He's consistent. You take a look at somebody like Kimi Räikkönen, for example. He started 9th in the Lotus and worked his way all the way up to 2nd. That was great, but if you put Sebastian Vettel in the Lotus, I think he does the exact same thing. We have this misconception of Sebastian Vettel that because he's out front all the time, he doesn't know how to work his way through a pack. He's not great at passing. If you pressure him from behind, you know, he slips up the pressure. People say all of these things, but time and time again, when Vettel's put in those positions, we actually see that he does quite well. He is this era's Michael Schumacher, and there's absolutely no reason to believe he's not going to win his 4th straight title.
With all that said now, going to this weekend, Formula One back in action at the Suzuka circuit in Japan. No reason to expect we won't see more of the same. I mean, you were talking about how consistent Sebastian Vettel's been. He has now led every lap of the last 4 consecutive races. It doesn't get any more consistent than that. I can't help but think, and I don't know if you'll agree with me, but I can't help but think that Vettel won't make it 5 races in a row because he's been good at the Suzuka circuit as well in the past.
He's been better than good. Since the Japanese Grand Prix has moved back to Suzuka in 2009, he has won 3 of the 4 races that have been held there. The only person stuck in the middle that broke that streak for Vettel was Jenson Button back in 2011. This is actually one of his better circuits in Formula One. I see no reason to believe that it won't continue. Vettel has been very strong in Asia, too. He's won well over a third of the races that he's contested there, actually over 40%. Which, when you consider just how often he wins in Formula One, maybe that stat doesn't really mean all that much, but he's strong at this leg of the year every single year. Even when he was in Toro Rosso, he put up some good results in the Asian section of the calendar. So Sebastian Vettel is doing everything you want. He doesn't make mistakes on the track. The only reason I could see this points lead getting a little bit closer is if there's a mechanical issue. We've seen that on Mark Webber's car, really throughout his tenure alongside Sebastian Vettel. Somehow it hasn't permeated into that one machine, and we haven't seen many mechanical troubles for him. But barring something absolutely incredible, you've got to think it's Vettel's to win in each and every Grand Prix, and for the title, too.
Oh, you can't help but just sit there and stare in awe at the kind of numbers he's put up this season. Unbelievable. It's almost starting to look like that first, rather not the first championship, but the second championship where he won, you'll have the correct numbers than I will, but something like 11 of the 19 Grand Prix. I just remember that was the year where it seemed like he would sit on pole and dominate just about every race weekend back in 2011, but Sebastian Vettel certainly, like you said, on his way to a 4th straight championship, and there's nobody that's going to be able to stop him. He's going to have to lose it before anybody else is going to win it.
Yeah, and back in 2011, the year that you mentioned, at this point of the year, Suzuka was the only race in a stretch of 6 that he didn't win. He still finished on the podium. He finished 3rd, but 5 out of 6 Grand Prix was the streak that locked up the title for him after Japan. I would have to think that having already won 4 Grand Prix in a row, the streak could absolutely continue, and he could even have a more remarkable streak, considering that the calendar at this point, save for the USA, is the second to last race of the year. It's still largely unchanged from 2011. These 2 seasons look very, very similar.
That they do. Joel Sebastianelli, always appreciate you having on to talk some open wheel action with us here on our Open Wheel Central segment. Keep it off the wall, and we'll talk to you, I'm sure, next week after Suzuka, because you gotta know, out there in the Formula One world, there's always going to be something to talk about.
Thanks for having me on. Enjoy the race weekend.
We're going to take a break here on Motorsports Madness. When we come back, I'll return to the roundtable with Tom Baker, and we'll continue wrapping up some of this weekend's racing action right after this. You're listening to Speed77 Radio and Race Chaser Online. We'll be back after these messages.
I knew some people would question it. I knew some people wouldn't approve. It's not just a number. It's a symbol for a great man who did great things. I don't want to erase that. I want to add to it, and I want to make my own name. I knew it wouldn't be easy, and that's why I wanted it.
Austin Dillon with a checkered flag.
This year, winning means more, and Kyle Busch would do anything to win. He'd steal a lead on a restart. He'd save an out-of-control race car. He'd get a neck tattoo of himself winning so he'll feel guilty if he loses. He'd even call another driver's house 30 times in a row the night before a race.
Who is this? Who's this?
Thanks for having me on.
If it would help him win, he'd do it. Because Kyle Busch would do anything to win.
For every turn, a twist. For every start, an untimely finish. For every win, someone who loses it. For every number, a nation. For every celebration, a brawl. For every split second, years of work. For every heaven, a hell. For every good old boy, a good old girl. For every curse, a prayer. For every ounce of order, a jug of chaos. For every twist, there's a turn.
You're listening to Speed77 Radio, your home for motorsports. Welcome back to Motorsports Madness here on Speed77 Radio and Race Chaser Online, and going to talk a little bit more about our race chasing antics from over the weekend. And I know I was in Cherokee Speedway for the sprint car action on Saturday night, but Thomas, we welcome you back to the round table. You were out at some NX Legends and Bandolero action at Concord Speedway on Saturday night. Certainly I heard a lot of stories from some of the action that went on down there, and certainly take this time to talk a little bit about what happened over the weekend.
Well, I got to tell you, yeah, I was only there on Saturday. They had 3 days of racing, and I was only able to attend Saturday because it was with you on Friday at Carolina Speedway at the sprint car show, excuse me, and then not able to make it out there on Sunday. So I did see Saturday's action at Concord. And I got to tell you, the real story of the day were the Bandoleros. The Legends races, none of them were really that exciting, frankly. None of them really were in question. You know, pretty much runaway wins for everybody in all of the Legends divisions. But the Bandoleros were just incredible. And it started with a beginner bandit feature. This race, Hunter Jarrett and excuse me, and Higgins, Ashton Higgins, who had, I think, won Friday. He and Hunter went at it pretty good, and there were just some spectacular crossover moves toward the end of the race. And right on the last lap, they touched, and Jarrett spun coming out of turn 4. Higgins ended up winning the event. It was an amazing finish. And so it got the day off to a great start, and then the Young Guns came out, and the Young Guns race was absolutely incredible. I mean, it featured the 24, who's a Georgia car that I hadn't been familiar with, Zach Leonardi, the 23 of Zachary Dabbs, who of course we're all familiar with, and the 11 of Dawson DC Cram, who really should be named Ham because he can work a crowd like nobody's business. But those three went at it, and there were 2 3-wide moves during that event, and the last one was right at the end and left the finish in doubt. We all thought that Zach Leonardi had won, but in fact they declared that Zachary Dabbs had just beaten Leonardi to the finish line. It was, those 3 kids just put on one of the best races that I will see anywhere for the rest of the year, and that I have seen anywhere all year long. And I want to congratulate all of those racers. And of course, the Outlaw Bandolero race, Jensen Jorgensen picked up the win again. Jensen is just a spectacular young racer and really has a bright future in the sport, and showed his prowess getting the win in that event. The whole race day really was pretty incredible, to be honest with you. It just a great night of racing at Concord for the most part, with the exception of one incident, which I'm not going to get into here on the air because we're talking good stuff. There was one incident. It wasn't terrible, but just a payback. But it was a really good day, and a bunch of great racing out there, and it was good to get back. I hadn't been there all season, and just a lot of young talent on display with the Legends and Bandoleros. They ran again Sunday, and I think that did it until the Spooktacular, which is coming up on the 2nd in November at Concord, and that should be a lot of fun.
That it should be, and certainly it's been a long, hard season for a lot of those drivers. You mentioned Jensen Jorgensen sweeping the weekend. He won again on Sunday, 27 wins overall for the Georgia driver, who really invaded and took the North Carolina State Championship for Bandoleros, a feat that we've not seen in multiple years in the national championship. So congratulations especially to Jensen Jorgensen. You mentioned the three-wide finish by Zach Dabb, Zach Leonardi, Dawson Cram. And I had to laugh at you because one of those moments where I'm not wanting to date you, but sitting here thinking about that, you called it the Young Guns division, and after that division changed to the Bandits about 8 or 9 years ago, I just had to sit here and chuckle. I guess we're both dating ourselves as far as how long we've been in the division when we can share a laugh about that.
Well, you know, I'm getting old and the hardening of the arteries sets in, you know, that kind of thing. It was a bald moment. Just forgive me for that. You're right. It's the Bandits now. But they certainly drove like young guns for sure. It was just one of those races where you forget that you're watching, you know, 12, 13-year-old kids. These kids were going at it hard, but they were going at it clean, and at the end of the race, they were all congratulating each other. It was very professional, honestly, and just some very impressive young talent there. And it just goes to show that it doesn't necessarily have to be, it's not about speed, and it doesn't even have to be a full-size car. It just needs to be equal racing machines with drivers who just really have the will to win. And all three of those kids just really put on a show, and it was certainly better than what I would have expected. In just one of those magic races where at the end you say, you know what, I don't care where I go. I'm not going to see a more exciting last 5 or 6 laps than that all year long. It was great.
That it was, certainly, and a great way to wrap up the NX Points season. Congratulations to all the national champions for 2013. Drivers including Chandler Smith in Bandits. We mentioned him already, Jensen Jorgensen in Outlaws. In the Legends ranks, Will Byron wrapped up the championship last weekend in Concord for the Young Lions. In semi-pro, Ryan McIntosh, and you saw Ryan McIntosh win on Saturday night. He also pulled off the trifecta and swept the weekend. In pro, Jason Irwin. Just all these young talents that have very bright futures in the sport. Congratulations to all of them, and certainly, Tom, it's been an exciting season, and now a lot of these guys are looking forward to 2014.
Yeah, and it should be fun. I know that Zach Leonardi's moving to Legends, which is going to be fun to watch because I think he showed on Saturday he's more than ready for that transition. You mentioned Chandler Smith. He's staying in the Bandoleros, and you look at the driver. You talked about Jensen Jorgensen. He's going to also move up to the Legends. Was told that on Saturday. So some of these kids are going to be moving from the Bandos into the Legends cars, and that'll be great because it's just going to make the Young Lions division of the Legends deal just another strong year for that because, of course, you know, you came off this year with all the talent in that class, and some of those guys are going to be moving to pro or moving up out of Legends entirely. So it's good that some of this talent that's in the Bandoleros right now is moving into the Legends division. It'll be a fun winter season in 2014 season in those cars as well.
That it will be. We're going to head to commercial and be back with more right after this.
Get in. Coca-Cola Racing Family Road Trip. 99 bottles of Coke on the wall. 99 bottles of Coke.
You got a left, then another left, and make a left after that one. Yeah! Whoa, taught her everything she knows. Are we there yet?
Did you know that most teens who drink alcohol get it from people they know? Usually their friends or family members. But regardless of where they get it, alcohol puts teens at risk for injury, to themselves and to others. You can help make it a safe summer for the teens you know. Don't serve them alcohol. It's unsafe, it's illegal, and it's irresponsible. Find out more at don'tserveteens.gov. That's don'tserveteens.gov. A message from the Federal Trade Commission and this station.
Every Saturday you wake up and wonder, is this gonna be it? Is this gonna be the day? The day it all clicks. The day you break through. The day you stand out above the rest. The day everyone remembers who you are. The day you stop wondering if you belong here. Is this gonna be the day?
To have a rivalry, you need a rival. For every David,
A Goliath.
for every Hatfield, a McCoy.
Every KO, bro.
Needs a Bobby Allison. For every fight,
A ring to settle it in.
In order to finish first.
somebody's got to finish second.
I hate second. Love your rivals. Because you need someone to beat.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed 77 Radio,
Powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports. Welcome back to Speed 77 Radio and Race Chaser Online here on this special extended edition of Motorsports Madness. And now it's time to talk some K&N Pro Series action from the past couple of weeks. And we start off tonight's action by bringing in on our Speed 77 and Race Chaser Online phone line the winner of the Drive Sober 150 from a couple weeks ago in Dover, Delaware, Austin Hill, driving out of the LaJoie Racing Stables for part of 2013, looking to move up to a full-time deal in 2014. And Austin, thank you for taking a few minutes to talk with us here this evening. And first off, congratulations on a huge win for you out in Dover.
Thank you, man. You know, I'm still stoked about that win. I'm still thinking about it to this day. It was really emotional, and my whole family was there, and it was a great win.
That it was, and certainly it was a very hard-fought win as well. You had a three-wide move there pulled on you. You were battling hard with Kyle Benjamin and Justin Boston there with about 2 laps to go. What was it like for you battling with two of your peers there 3 wide in the closing laps at the Monster Mile, and what did it take on your end to come out on top?
Yeah, it was very nerve-wracking. You know, we had a caution with 12 laps to go, and I thought once we went back green, it was going to be, 10 or so laps left, and they just kept having problems behind us. They'd be 3 wide and stuff, so it ended up being a 3-lap battle. And when we took the green, I was getting jacked up by Justin Boston going into the corner, and it got me a little bit free going in, and I lost some momentum off the 2, and that's what made us go 3 wide. But going into turn 3, I held it wide open, and I just hoped it stuck. It was either going to be checkers or record. And when I came off of turn 4 and I knew that I cleared them, I knew that I would be able to pull away from them and get the win. It was an awesome day for me.
You dominated about the second half of the race, took the win around lap 80, or took the lead around lap 80, rather, and just never looked back from there. You said to me a couple weeks ago at Concord it was one of the biggest wins of your career. Certainly gives you a lot of momentum going forward and towards 2014 as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it boosts my confidence sky high. Getting that win, it really meant a lot to me and my family. And the LaJoie crew, they worked so hard. Andy Santerre and Corey LaJoie and Stephen Dawson, they did a heck of a job getting the car ready. And Andy and Corey, they helped me out on the track because I've never ran at a track that fast and that big. I've only ran at half miles and under, so running at a mile and it being that fast and getting the information from them really helped out a lot. I watched a lot of videos online on YouTube and stuff like that, and that's really all I had. I didn't go out and watch any of the races at Dover prior to this event. I didn't do any of that, so coming out and being a rookie and getting that win, it really boosts my confidence.
Tom, I'm going to turn to you because I know you and I have both seen how much Austin has grown in his limited stint in the K&N Series this season, but I'm sure you've got a couple of things you'd like to ask him about as well here tonight.
Yeah, I thinking about when you win a race like Dover, I mean, there's K&N races, and then there's K&N races, and Dover is a K&N race, and to be able to win at a track like Dover, that's a track surface that you don't get to a lot of experience on and get to race on. Talk a little bit about what that's like for you, and what's the reaction been? Did you get any reaction from any of the NASCAR folk after the win was over?
Yeah, I had a lot of people come up to me and congratulate me. They were really impressed, and they were really shocked that a rookie came out and won the event, because that's the biggest race of the K&N schedule.
Absolutely.
It's a concrete surface, and there's so much to that track. The characteristics of it, everything is way different than any other track you'll ever race at in the NASCAR level or the Sprint Cup level. That track itself has got its own characteristics, and to come out and win like we did, it really showed how good of a team we actually are.
Talk a little bit about the characteristics. I know there's a lot of people listening out there who, I think they've always kind of wanted to know, how do you drive differently on concrete versus the pavement tracks?
Yeah, well, that track, it has a lot of grip, and like on restarts and stuff, we pick up the black on the track. So the black from the rubber on the track, it goes onto your tires, and on the restarts, you spin tires a lot, and that's what we had a lot of trouble with, was spinning tires on restarts. And a couple of other people, like Ben Kennedy, that's been running in that series for a couple of years now, he was even spinning tires, and he's a veteran. So that track was really hard on restarts. You'd pick up the rubber, and the track would it'd be white, and then you'd go back green, and you'd be able to, it's like you had brand new tires. And going into turn one, there's a huge bump, and when you go over it, the front end gets really light, and it's like you can't really steer until the car lands off into the corner. And once it lands, the car kind of settles down, and you're able to just pick up the gas and drive it off the corner, because it has so much grip at that track. And turn three, it's a little bit easier getting off in there. It's not as big of a transition over the bump. But again, I mean, you're able to get back to the throttle so soon. You don't even brake at that track with the K&N cars. You're out of the throttle for maybe a second or two, and then you're back in the gas. So wow, it's a very fast track.
I can imagine that must have been quite the thrill for you to be able to pull that one off. How many days was it before it really sank in that I just won Dover?
Yeah, well, it actually took about a week. I kept looking at the trophy. It's sitting in my room right now, and I kept looking over at the trophy, and I cannot believe I won this race. And I can't wait for everyone to see it live on October 13th at noon, and then it's going to show again on October 14th at 7 p.m. So it was an awesome race, and I'm sure everyone's going to enjoy watching it.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a really, really good race, and certainly congratulations. Now, what are your future plans, Austin? What will we see you doing the rest of this year and then going forward into 2014? What can you tell us?
Well, we might be running the Legend car. We might be running it at Texas on October 30th through November 2nd. They have a big money race those weekends, and we might run that. But other than that, for the rest of the year, we're not really going to run anything else. We're going to focus on getting sponsorship for next year. We're really trying our hardest to get sponsorship for next year, and we're wanting to do the full K&N series next year, and maybe some ARCA series, ARCA races, just to get my feet wet in ARCA if we can come up with the money. But we definitely got to find sponsorship.
Well, congratulations on the win for sure. That was really, really intense, and just it really showed the talent that you have. I know you really want to give all the credit to the team because you're humble, and certainly there's no question that the core of the Joyce stable is a stable that's a championship stable in K&N without question. But for you to be able to come out and do what you did at Dover says a lot about you as a driver and the poise that you showed and the controlled aggression. Looking forward to seeing the race and really looking forward to seeing your future, because certainly it would appear to be bright. I know it's a tough sport, and it's hard to find the support, so hopefully you can pull that off. And if there's anybody from any teams listening to this, Austin's certainly a driver that somebody should be looking at. But congratulations, man. Great job.
Yeah, thank you a lot, and thank you for having me on the show. And I like to thank all the fans that came out for the race. And it's Breast Cancer Awareness this month, so I like to to give a shout out to all the moms that have breast cancer. Hope that they can fight it off. But I'm always thinking about them during the month of October. But I also like to thank Don Rich Ford for all their hard work and helping me with this year. Without them, we probably wouldn't have been at Dover. And my dad and my family and everybody that's been a part of my life. It was a special moment for us.
Austin Hill, once again, thank you for taking a few minutes this evening to talk with us on the show. Congratulations again on the breakthrough win, and we wish you all the best here as you close out 2013 and now looking forward to 2014, and we look forward to seeing you back on the track here soon.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break here on Motorsports Madness, and when we come back, our K&N Pro Series jaunt continues. We're going to have Dylan Kwasniewski live with us on the phone lines to talk about his incredible run towards the 2013 championship and what we can expect out of him going forward. That's coming up next on Motorsports Madness. You're listening to Speed 77 Radio, powered by Race Chaser Online.
All I wanted to do was just pick up a guitar and sing praise songs.
From IamSecond.com.
Well, when I got to 17, I was playing in after-hours bars, just in a bunch of trouble.
Grammy Award winner Michael W. Smith.
Smoking that first joint and feeling so guilty about it. From there, it was LSD, and your compass sort of just like disappeared. I knew where I belonged. I just couldn't get out. I was very depressed. I went on the floor and just began to shake. And I was just weeping. I was weeping. And I just began to just cry out for God. 12:30 at night, on the linoleum floor of my kitchen, the God of the universe came and wept with me on that floor. I know where my hope lies. It's not being a rock star. I'm a son of the High King of the universe.
Watch Michael's story at IamSecond.com.
If I had a nickel. If I had a nickel? If I had a nickel for every time I wish my car had a horn. If I had a nickel for every time.
For every lucky charm I have brought to the racetrack.
If I had a nickel.
For every wardrobe change I had to make.
Man, if I had a nickel. If I had a nickel for every time I could've, would've, should've.
If you had a Sunoco Rewards credit card, you'd get a nickel for every gallon you pump. Go Sunoco.
Hi, this is Jamie McMurray here for RAD, the entertainment industry's voice for road safety. Want to make a difference? It's simple. Be responsible. Plan ahead. Designate before you celebrate. Friends don't let friends drive drunk.
Baby, you can drive my car. Yes, I'm gonna be a star.
A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, RAD, the National Association of Broadcasters, and the Ad Council.
Why me? Why me? I won Daytona last year.
I won Nationwide.
I did beat Jimmy Johnson.
I won Vegas.
I won Richmond. I'm good with people. I'm from Wisconsin. I'm loyal. I like animals.
I'm better looking.
Come on. I'm a Libra. There was a cat in a tree and I got him out. So?
So what do you think?
Am I on your team?
Choose wisely. The all-new 2013 NASCAR Fantasy Live. Play today at NASCAR.com.
I'm feeling a connection here.
Dropping in behind you. Give you just a little tap here. Come on, hit me harder than that. See if I can fake you high. Fake low. Make that to now. Trying to bother me, huh? You're looking a little loose. Time to get to work. See ya. Nighty night.
Maybe you know who we are.
But do you know who we really are?
We're ladies.
And not so gentle men.
We are mad scientists.
We're outlaws turned heroes.
Packers.
Vikings.
Red State.
Blue State.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But no matter how different we are, we're all connected, and we can all make a difference. That's why United Way brings people, expertise, and resources together to improve the education, income, and health of our communities, the building blocks for a better life. When we live united, our efforts, magnified by others, add up to real change. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly, so do our communities. But real change won't happen without you.
Live united.
So let's look beyond our differences.
Live united.
One by one, let's make a difference. Let's reach out a hand to one and influence the condition of all.
Live united.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
I'm Jacob Seelman.
And I'm Tom Baker.
You're listening to Speed 77 Radio,
powered by Race Chaser Online.
We are your home for motorsports. Welcome back to Motorsports Madness here on Speed 77 Radio and Race Chaser Online, about ready to roll to conclusion. And tonight we continue our jaunt through the K&N Pro Series world, now getting a little bit of the best of both worlds. Going to talk now live with 2012 K&N West Series champion and current 2013 K&N East Series points leader, Dylan Kwasniewski out of the Turner Scott Motorsports stables. And Dylan, 5 wins this season. You've had an almost flawless 2013, save for a couple of struggles the last 2 weeks at Loudon and Dover, but congratulations on a lot of success so far, and welcome to the show tonight.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate you guys having me.
Start off tonight, let's talk about your year so far in the K&N East ranks. You broke out strong, won the race at Bristol, and then had a couple of struggles, but overall, your statistics this year have been phenomenal. 5 wins, that's third best over the course of the K&N East Series history. Did you imagine that you were going to have this much success transitioning over from the West ranks here in 2013?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had high hopes going into it. You know, I can't sell my shirt short from, you know, going from a West championship. I mean, I was coming into the season expecting to get a championship in the East, and I wasn't going to accept anything else but that. But, you know, we still got one race to go, so can't say anything yet. But, I mean, obviously it's been a great season with 5 wins. I can't complain at all. I would definitely like some more. I mean, they call me greedy, but I just love to win. and I know that we got, you know, a fantastic team with Turner Scott Motorsports for them being, you know, their first year in the K&N Series. It's, you know, it's an impeccable season, and hopefully we can finish it off at Road Atlanta.
The struggles you've had the last 2 weeks, we saw you with some electrical problems at Loudon, and then, of course, the hard crash that you took at Dover. Do the struggles you've had the last 2 races and seeing your points lead start to falter a little bit, does that shake your confidence any at all going into the final race at Road Atlanta?
No, I mean, I think it definitely even pushes me harder to go out to this road course race and, you know, it takes what? Because we obviously did that last race at VIR, and I know we got the car to beat. I mean, I have all the confidence in the world. Now I really have to worry about finishing in front of Brett Moffitt. You know, that's my biggest goal, but I really do think we got a car to win. We were really strong at VIR. I went and drove there in a Mustang just to get my roots at the track, and I really think that it's time to separate, you know, the road course drivers from the regular drivers and the ones that really have to, you know, step up to the plate and put it all out there, because this track is ridiculously fast, and there's a lot of blind corners, a lot of hairy S's, so you got to be on your toes constantly, and I know going into this last race that I'm going to be the one to beat.
I know you're not one to talk a whole lot about your own success, although this season certainly speaks all for itself, but if you're able to pull off finish ahead of Brett Moffitt in this final race and win the East Championship, you'd become the first driver in series history to win back-to-back titles in the West and the East. What does that mean to you as a young driver trying to make his way up through the ranks?
Oh, it means the world. I mean, I'm out here trying to make it, up to the higher up of NASCAR. I'm trying to make the Sprint Cup Series, and, by breaking these records and becoming the first one to ever do it, I think it'll really put me in place and have a really good pipeline to go up to the next level. I mean, we got to go out there and we got to set ourselves apart from somebody else. So you may have drivers that can win races and you go out and win championships, but I want to be somebody that's different than anybody else, that's done things that nobody else has ever done. So I got to set myself apart, and I think by getting both of these championships, I'm going to do so, and it'll put me in a perfect position to move up to the next levels.
Dylan, I got to ask you, I went back as we knew you were going to be on the show, and I went back and was spending some time just kind of doing my homework a little bit, and I went all the way back to and watched the video that Royal Purple did with you, I guess 3 years ago now, maybe, and just the kind of the day in the life scenario, and I really got the sense from watching that video that this was a young man who wasn't just interested in making it to NASCAR. He was obsessed. And I have to ask you, you've obviously come a long way since that video was made. When you think back on it, does it surprise you at all as far as you've gotten in such a short time? I mean, talk a little bit about your road to get here, because I think a lot of people think, well, these kids all come with money and whatever. Not the case with you at all. You really had to work awfully hard for this.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I don't mean to sound cocky at all or sound pompous, but, I mean, I'm not surprised that this is where I am right now. I mean, I was 100% confident in my ability. I knew that I was the driver to beat out there. I knew that I could go out there and win races and win championships. It was just a matter of me being focused and making sure I stayed determined to it. But, I have all the drive in the world, especially after my dad passed away. I really wanted to make sure that I was going to go out there and do my hardest and, make sure I make it, to prove that his legacy was well worth it and that his hard work definitely paid off. So, I have all the drive behind me, and this is my only opportunity to make it in racing. This is my only avenue. I mean, I've been doing it since I was 5 years old. So to have all this resting on my plate and, have the stress of not being able to make it, it really pushes me to go out there and win races and championships. And, that's what we're doing. I just got to keep plugging away, and I know that I have to be confident in my ability, because I know that every time I step out on the track that I'm a contender for the win, and I just have to be confident in myself and know that I got to be smart every time I'm on the racetrack.
Well, you've got fantastic equipment too. I mean, being able to race for Turner Scott, that's a top-notch organization, and just the network in and of itself of drivers and crew chiefs and everybody in that organization, just so much experience to draw from there, and so much talent and so much knowledge. That has to be a real comfort for you, coming into the East Series, which it seems like it's the same as the West, but boy, not to say that there's not a lot of competition in the West Series, surely there is, but the East Series is just loaded this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a tough series, and I knew going into it was going to be a challenge, but, the drivers in the West Series really prepared me for this. I mean, there may be a little less drivers that have the ability to go out there and win every week, but the drivers that are in the West Series, like my teammate Greg Pursley last year, and, Michael Sells, Derek Thorne, who's out there, these are top-notch drivers. I mean, they're just as good as all the guys in the East Series. So I knew that it was going to put up a challenge. I knew that if I could win the championship in the West, that I definitely could have the right tools and the pedigree to go to the East and do the same. So, especially with being Turner Scott. I mean, even though this is their first year with K&N, they're doing a tremendous job. They have the best equipment, I think, out there. And with my sponsors, Royal Purple, Rockstar, and Per Breckers, I definitely have the opportunity to win every race. And I know that our cars are going to be fast every time we go out there, and that they're going to be well put together, especially with my crew chief, Marty Lindley, because he's just he knows the ins and outs of them. he was a driver himself, so he really knows how to communicate with me and get that car to where I can go out there and win races.
What does next year look like for you? Is it a little too early to tell, or what's kind of in the works for you? Because I know that there are a lot of people that I talk with and that I know in the sport, just even beyond the NASCAR fold, who are aware of you and starting to kind of, well, who is this Dylan Kwasniewski kid? He's doing an awful lot of winning here. What is there nationwide in next year's future for you, or is it a little early to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little early, but you'll definitely see me stepping up to either trucks or nationwide. We haven't got the logistics fully there yet. We still got to work on a little bit of sponsorship, but I can definitely say that Rockstar's coming back for sure on a higher level. So is Royal Purple. They're going to be back on my car. So the future's looking really bright. We just got to figure out kind of the logistics of it, what we really want to do, and kind of make sure we have everything set in stone. But hopefully in the next couple of months I'll be able to announce it. I mean, I get the question all the time, and I'm itching to just say, yeah, look, this is what we're doing, this is what team we're going to run with, and I'm looking forward to it. But right now it's still kind of up in the air just a little bit, so we got to make sure we get everything grounded and figure everything out first before we tell the world what we're going to do.
Well, stay humble and stay hungry, man. You definitely, the future's bright enough that you probably ought to be wearing shades. I can see you easily in Cup in the next 2 to 3 years. And Jacob, I know that it took a couple of weeks to make this happen, but it's great having Dylan on the program, and certainly always good to hear from such a talented young racer who's so well-spoken as well, and just a natural when it comes to the whole marketing and media thing.
That it is, and Dylan, you mentioned stepping up real quickly before we close the show. For the race fans out there, we're going to keep Dylan on the line here for a few minutes after the show and tape an extended interview with him that you can hear at Race Chaser Online in the next couple of days. But Dylan, you mentioned stepping up. You ran the ARCA Series event out in Kansas over the weekend as well. Won the pole and had a very, very strong run before the rains came. Talk a little bit about what you learned from the ARCA race that may translate here for you going forward as well.
Yeah, I learned a ton from that race. I mean, it was a shame that, it got shortened. I definitely thought we could win the race for sure. We just, unfortunately, it got shortened 40 laps before, and there was a rain for about 45 minutes, so I definitely think we could have finished the race. But, it's just an unfortunate thing. I knew we had a great car, but I learned a ton from that race. I learned a lot about aero, side force, how the car handles when you get in dirty air. So, in K&N, you see that a little bit, but not as much as you do on these mile-and-a-half tracks with, plate racing too. So it taught me a lot of new things and new factors that I never experienced before that I'm going to have to learn for the next step up. So it really was a learning curve. Fourth place is all right, but I'm disappointed I didn't get the win because I knew that we had the best car to beat out there. But, we can't change what the Mother Nature throws at us, so we just got to take what it gives us, and it was a great learning experience, so that's all we needed for it.
That it is, and you use the words learning experience a lot, and I know the coming months for you will be learning experiences all the same. Congratulations on all your success so far. Obviously, we'll hear a little bit more from you here in a couple minutes, but for all those race fans out there, thanks for taking the time to talk with them, Dylan, and again, thank you for taking some time to talk live on the show. Best wishes to you for all your continued success going forward into 2014.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate you talking to you guys.
And that's going to do it for the live portion of Motorsports Madness here this evening. You can catch it in podcast form about 24 hours following our broadcast on Race Chaser Online. Until next time, this is Jacob Seelman for Tom Baker, saying thank you to everybody that makes it happen here at Speed77 Radio. Keep it off the wall until we meet again. So long, everybody.